Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining another IFAS AI seminar. Our speaker today is Dr. Lirong Xiang. She's an assistant professor in the Department of Biological and Environmental Engineering at Cornell University. Before that, she was an assistant professor in the Department of Bio and Ag Engineering at NC State, with affiliations in the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering and the NC Plant Science Initiative. Dr. Xiang received her PhD in Agriculture and Biosystems Engineering from Iowa State University and her BS in Biosystems Engineering from Zhejiang University. She currently serves as a guest editor for Computers and Electronics in Agriculture, an assistant and associate editor for the Journal of the SAB, and an associate editor for the Plant Phenome Journal. Dr. Xiang's research includes robotics, computer vision, machine learning, with a focus on developing innovative and sustainable solutions for crop production, plant health monitoring, and agricultural system optimization. So please welcome Dr. Xiang.
Thank you so much, Henry, for the introduction. I will go ahead and share my screen. Can you see my slides?
Yes, perfect.
Great, I will start. Well, at first, I really appreciate the opportunity to speak here and happy to learn more from each other. So my talk here will be around the AI-enabled robotics for precision agriculture. And as Henry has mentioned, I spent my last 3 years at NC State. So some of the work presented here, they are done at NC State. So this is an overview of the research in my current lab. We work on both hardware side, such as the development of novel sensors and robotics, as well as the software side, like AI algorithms. And our overarching goal is to combine those hardware and software components to tackle the challenges in agriculture applications and to improve the yield, performance, production efficiency, and provide some decision-making tools for stakeholders. This is an overview to share with you like how important it is for robotics and AI in agriculture. This is what I did. So I put future agriculture, smart farming, those keywords in Web of Science and Google Scholar, and use data mining tool to visualize the terms that frequently show in those publications. So as you can tell, this summary, they can be roughly categorized into 3 groups: agriculture, imaging and AI, and robotics. So some of the topics are well developed, such as imaging, reading, and some of them are still under developing, such as robotics, controller simulation, system effectiveness, etc. So in this talk, I'm gonna share some of our example projects to share with you how we tackle the challenges using robotics and AI for agriculture applications. So actually, the first application came to my mind whenever I introduced that concept of AI and robotics in agriculture, was about weed management, because many people are familiar with topic, and there are many startups working on developing precision weed management technologies. So for weed measurement, the current most common practice is that people spray herbicides on the whole field, including the soil background, crops, and weed canopies. But there are some literature shows that with the current precision weed management technologies, we can reduce 95% chemical use. So how is that possible? We have done some preliminary work on this concept. So left 2 pictures. They are pictures captured in cotton field. The top one is a raw image where there are cotton crops and weed canopies and soil background. And with AI algorithms, we can detect the cotton canopy and weeds, even different weed species in different colors. So our concept is we are going to develop this robotic system with camera integrated with lighting system and also computer system as a controller and also executor. Well, there's a spray system which can spray herbicides or pesticides. So the idea is we have the camera system to capture the top view images, and we have AI algorithm to identify the weeds canopies, different weed species, and we synchronize that by controlling this spray system, typically basically turning some nozzles on and off depends on the weed canopy patterns. And to precisely spray herbicides on the weed canopy only. Um, and we've done some preliminary work in collaboration with Dr. Rebel Cotton at NC State. So this is a prototype we have built. There's a spray nozzle mounted on the robot and the camera imaging system also on a robotic system. And for this camera system, one special thing is we have integrated a strobe lighting system so it can provide consistent lighting under field conditions. And especially in the field, there's variable lighting, wind conditions to enable short exposure time is important. And here we have simulated the weed pattern where there are yellow cells where the robot is supposed to spray the water, the liquid on the yellow cells only. So as you can tell from the video, it can precisely spray that liquid on the yellow cells. And we also get some quantitative results. The accuracy is at a millimeter level accuracy. And but keep in mind that this is in controlled environment and it's less challenging compared to the field conditions. We are still working on the next steps on this project. And we've also evaluated in a greenhouse. Basically, this one is the output image based on the weed detection from AI models. And each blue dot means we need to turn on that corresponding nozzle on and the rest of the nozzles off. And this qualitative results showing that we can precisely spray the herbicides on the weed canopy and avoiding the crops and the background. So with that, also gonna share some of our projects around disease management, which also involves a lot of AI and robotics development. So this is a project funded by USDA, and I also listed our collaborators here. So the main idea is in tomato breeding. One of the major tasks is identify the disease type and quantify the disease severity. So the current practice is that plant breeders, they will train a group of people, and they send them to the field to take a look at the plant canopy and tell what type of disease it is and estimate the disease severity. And eventually those plant breeders will use those trees to tell the different performance among different genotypes and select the future cultivars that are resistant to different disease. And some example pictures related. Yes. Any questions?
Sorry about that. I'll just make sure the
Oh, no
participants are
problem.
all
No worries.
muted.
Okay, sure. So I'm showing some of the example images showing the disease symptoms that are of interest to plant breeders. For example, for the foliar disease, there are typically lesions on stems and also some spots on the leaves and also spots on the fruits. So as you can tell from those images, some of the symptoms are inside the canopy, which makes the phenotyping task very challenging. So later in this presentation, I will also share how we tackle challenges or develop unique robotic system that can go inside the canopy to capture disease inside the canopy. And here I'm also sharing some of the example tomato disease here. The first row I listed four different disease types: subterior leaf spot, bacterial spot, late blight, early blight. So actually, there are more than 200 different foliar disease for tomato only. Some of them they have very similar symptoms. For example, the subterior leaf spot and bacterial spot, they all have tiny black spots on the leaf blade. So which makes leaf disease identification challenging because they share similar symptoms. And for the severity, plant breeders, they have a well-defined score from 0 to 12, depends on the percentage area affected by disease. For example, the first image, it is healthy, the HB score is 0. And yeah, if there's a certain percentage affected by the disease, they have assigned a score for that severity. And this is very important for breeders to evaluate the disease resistance of different species, different genotypes. So what we want to develop in this project is we want to have this automated system that can traverse between the crop rows, take images, and we have AI models to identify the disease. Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, there's a Cornell alert. Yeah, we want to map the whole field with disease type and disease severity. So for breeders, they can map this information with their genotypes, and for growers, we provide this map. They can, for example, they can click on one point to tell what type of disease it is and how severe it is. So also tell them what to spray and how much to spray. Help with decision making process in crop management. So what we have done in 2023, we have building customizing this robotic system based on a Husky robot. So there's a sensor mast with two tiers of stereo cameras. So one key point here is the stereo cameras. It's capturing high quality stereo images that provides us both RGB information as well as the depth information, so we can reconstruct the 3D models of the tomato canopy. And as you notice, there's also a GPS there. This is an antenna. It can provide associated GPS locations for each image it has collected. So that's how we can remap the whole field. So, but in 2023, we find that this robot is too wide to fit into the row space. So in last year, 2024, and also last year, we have switched to this Amiga robot. So we retrofitted this Amiga robotic system, and we mount multiple cameras on the left side, right side, also top view, and the robot is crossing the plants to capture multi-view images for disease monitoring. So this is the disease scale I mentioned before. They have a well-defined scale from 0 to 12, depends on the percentage area affected by disease. For example, there's 10% area affected by disease, the corresponding HB scale will be 5. But actually, once we have the tons of data collected by the robotic systems I showed in the previous slides, the first also one of the biggest challenges is that data labeling, how to accurately annotate those image data for training AI models. And as you can imagine, it could be labor intensive and also can be inaccurate if we label that manually. Let's say given this example image, it's actually really hard to tell with the real scale, right? It's a 5 score or 6 score, 7 score. One of the accurate ways is to manually annotate those disease affected area and count the number of pixels and then calculate the percentage pixels to get the real scale number. So we figured that this process is super labor intensive and time consuming. My students told me even take them maybe a couple of hours to label just one image because they need to annotate that pixel by pixel. So we've been to tackle this challenging, we have been developing this digital twin system. So the idea is we build the disease-affected tomato field in a simulation environment by leveraging game engine. And specifically, we use Unreal Engine in this work, which is from Epic Games in Cary, North Carolina. And the idea is we first scan the 3D models of the real tomato plants to get the accurate and also realistic 3D architecture of the tomato plants. And then we take pictures of the tomato diseased plants to get the textures. So basically, we copy and paste those disease textures, disease patterns onto those healthy onto the healthy plants or onto the 3D models. So to simulate these disease-affected 3D plants in the simulation or in the game engine environment. This picture shows a simulated field with robots in it, and the right one is the real field, and some example images generated by the in synthetic environment, and the real images captured in the field. And the good thing with this synthetic environment is, in addition to generating those synthetic images, it also gives us the associated labels. So we don't need to manually label those image data. I have a video here to show you, yeah, the synthetic, the simulation environment. So one of the good things is that we can tune as many parameters as we want, like different plant density and different growth stages, different timings of the day, and different disease types, different disease severity, etc. And we can customize the robotic system in this simulation environment as well, even with the shop lighting. Try to mimic mostly everything we have in the real world to create photorealistic images to train our AI models. So we have the synthetic images and the synthetic labels from the simulation environment. Then after that, we develop this domain adaptive semantic segmentation algorithm. So basically, this algorithm take the simulated images with labels as input, as well as the real world images, because during the model training, we feed in the real world images to teach the model try to let it adapt to the real world images. But for those real world images, we don't need the real ground truth label, just to teach the models about real world patterns. And this is some of the example output generated by the domain adaptive AI model. As you can tell from the qualitative results, the disease affected area and the fruits, they are correctly identified by this trained model. And we've also evaluated this with manually labeled ground truths. As you can tell from those correlation results and the MAP results, the system derived, for example, disease percentage is closely highly correlated with the manual collected ground truths. And we also shared with this with plant breeders. They said it's sufficient enough for them to get the difference performance of different genotypes. And if you want to check more details, we also have a publication on Journal of Field Robotics. So at the beginning, I mentioned that eventually we want to provide a global field map of disease and affection status for the users, either breeders or growers. So one of the other tasks we are doing is about the point cloud registration, how to stitch multi-view point cloud and to reconstruct the whole field about the disease affection status. So my students has been working on generating high quality point cloud based on stereometric algorithm, and also stitch the multi-view point cloud based on the features shared by different adjacent point clouds. And another challenge, like I mentioned at the beginning of this project, is some symptoms, some features inside the canopy. For example, lesions on the stem and also spots on the fruits, because of some of the tomato fruits, they are covered by the foliage. An easy, straightforward example here is for this tomato canopy in a greenhouse. When I first took a picture outside the canopy, you can probably only see maybe 30, 20 tomato fruits. But actually, when we insert our cameras inside the canopy to take the images and also separate each individual plant to count how many tomatoes are there for each plant. Actually, there are more than 163 tomatoes for this tomato bush only, because most of the tomato fruits they are covered by the foliage. I talked to plant breeders about this problem. They told me, from a breeder's point of view, they try to select the cultivars that have tomato fruits covered by leaves, because if they exposed to sunlight, they will get sunburn and will decrease the tomato yield and also fruit quality. These are some of the example images captured by my smartphone when I insert my smartphone inside a canopy and take some images. So as you can tell, there are many tomato fruits around this stem and covered by the leaves, which is not visible from a phenotyping system outside the canopy. So inspired by this operation, we have been working on this plant endoscope. So the idea is just like an endoscope, the robot will go inside the canopy with a very tiny camera, and the tiny camera is also equipped with a lighting system because there's not sufficient or consistent lighting inside the canopy. And the camera is less than 5 millimeter size length, and it's very tiny and can capture also high quality images. So here I'm showing some of the example images. For this one, it is an image with tomato, and this one without a tomato. So if you could imagine, like we control a robot go to a specific location, and with the images collected by this plant endoscope, we know whether there's a tomato there or not. And we control a robot to multiple locations, we can know at least whether there are tomato fruits for those locations and eventually map the whole field, whole canopy. But one of the important thing is how to optimize this sampling process. You know, the we have been working on this control optimization. So basically, the robot will start with grid-based sampling and take some initial images, build the 3D models, get an initial map, and based on this initial map, we implement reinforcement learning basically to optimize each insertion to get maximum information as possible. So after the first initial data collection, we will optimize these sampling points. We are not doing grid-based sampling anymore to select the locations where there's high probability of with tomato fruits. And this is a video showing the control environment, the simulation environment we have been using for optimizing this control process. Maybe skip a little bit. So in this environment, we've built a program to connect the Unreal Engine, the game engine, with ROS topics, and also visualize that in RVs. So this is a real-time 3D point cloud captured by this robotic system, and this is the example image captured by the camera, showing some of the features inside the canopy. And it's gonna build this initial map, and we are gonna use this initial map as the input to optimize our sampling process. Yeah, for example, in this case, it saw some partial fruits there, then it will increase the chance of being sampled again to get a more accurate estimation of the tomato fruits there. This is a very preliminary video. just show this tiny camera. This is the first version of our plant endoscope. It is around 2 millimeter, 2 centimeter size, but now we have a much smaller version with millimeter level size. I'm gonna skip that. And actually, last summer, we've taken this robotic system with a robotic arm to the field. And this is a video showing our concept where the Amiga robot is driving across this crop row and take side view images and um, take some inside canopy images as well to capture some invisible trees, invisible from outside the canopy. Some of the example images captured in the simulation, this is the reconstructed disparity map from the plant endoscope. I forgot to mention, so that plant endoscope is also a tiny stereo camera, so it will give us a disparity map for us to reconstruct the 3D models of the canopy. So the videos I showed at the beginning, there was a student manually controlling the robot. So we are also working on self-navigation of the robotic system. So eventually we want the robot to be able to fully autonomous to operate in the field. So we have been working on this Gaussian splatting based navigation. The idea is we have a camera, RGB camera and a depth camera to capture images of the surroundings of a robot, and we develop this semantic Gaussian splatting. So currently there are many popular AI-enabled rendering algorithm that can build a very photorealistic 3D models, which can be very helpful for navigation and phenotyping tasks. And one special thing in this task is, in addition to those photorealistic models, we also have semantics. So we have semantic labels to show which part is the crop where the robot should avoid collision with, and which part is the soil ground. And the output shows the point cloud of the crops, the ground, and also used as the input for the robot navigation. This is a video in simulation showing how the robot built this map for navigation in real time. Some of the example output, sharing the semantic map generated by the algorithm and also the ground truth map we get from the simulation environment. And we've also collected the field data. My students are still working on processing those field data. So I've been introducing this simulation environment, and the one question we have been thinking about is how it can better benefit the whole community. So one work we have been doing is, open sourcing all the data set we have collected from the simulation environment. So one of the data set is this phenotyping data set, which has more than 6,700 images with bounding box overlays and semantics. So here I'm showing some of the example images. The first row with bounding boxes for disease affected leaves and also tomato fruits. And the bottom row showing some images with semantic labels for disease affected leaves and stems, tomato fruits. So we have a manuscript under review under TPAMI, and this dataset is already open source. So if you're interested in playing with those images for your AI models, please feel free to work with those images. And another data set that we've been working on is, with different modalities like a depth, thermal, semantic instance, stereo pair images, which has more than 2100 pairs sets, I would say. Each set contains those different images. Currently, there are many stereo matching algorithms, but if you play with them, you will find them mostly trained based on current public data set, not specifically trained for agriculture scenarios. But in agriculture, there are some unique challenges, like such as uneven lighting, very homogeneous textures among leaves, fruits, stems. So if you test those pre-trained stereo matching algorithm on plant canopy, they won't work well. So we have been working on fine-tuning those or reaching those stereo matching algorithms based on this synthetic data set. It can improve the stereo matching performance a lot. I think I do have some qualitative results showing here. The second column is the ground truth or highlight. The third column is the stereo matching results trained based on our tomato castle dataset. And the fourth column trained on public dataset and for this specific algorithm for this dataset. And as you can tell, for the right columns, there's no distinct edges for those leaves and stems. And the reconstructed this disparity map is not that accurate. It doesn't show the accurate edges. But for the models trained based on our data set, it shows clear edges and very crispy disparity maps. And this is an example output for semantic segmentation, basically to segment healthy leaves, disease-affected leaves, tomato fruits, and the background. So the first row is about the stereo, the synthetic images, and second, third row, they are real-world images. So even the models trained based on synthetic images, they can still work well on the real-world images. So I have a little bit more than 10 minutes. I will switch to a little bit different robotic platforms. So I've been working on those row crops like corn plants during my PhD program and the tomato crops during my time at NC State and also here at Cornell. Those row crops are well structured, but they're actually in agriculture scenarios. There are some cases where there's no clearance between the crop rows. For example, cucumber, watermelon, squash, sweet potato, which is a leading crop at NC State. So in those cases, the ground vehicles would not work anymore because there's no clearance between the crop rows. So one of the topics we've been working on is Legged robot for agriculture. This is a spider robot we built from very scratch, started with 3D design, 3D printing, assembling, and control. And I'm showing some of the specifications here. We've been also working with those commercial Legged robotic platforms, for example, the robotic dog from Unichi. But one of the limitations is the limited payload. That's why we are customizing the Legged robot, building this spider robot. So one of the big differences is the higher payload, longer endurance, and also more stable because it has 6 legs. Always, whenever there's always 3 legs on the ground. This is the tripod gate we have been developing for the spider robot, and we also have more details in this publication on Frontiers in Robotics and AI. So it is called tripod gate because there are always 3 legs on the ground and mimicking the tripod, the pose of the tripod. And as I mentioned, it's gonna be more stable than a robotic dog. And we've also developed this forward and reverse kinematics. Well, don't get panic about those mathematics. What I'm trying to show is how we control the robot. Let's see, with this forward kinematics, given each angle of given the angles of each degree, if each joint, or we call it joint states, we can calculate the final XYZ coordinates or Cartesian coordinates of the robot based on this forward kinematics. And inversely, given the XYZ Cartesian coordinates, we can also calculate the joint states, basic rotation degrees of each joint using this inverse kinematics. And that's how we control robot forward, backward, turning left and right. And this is a video showing actually a new version of the robot in a cucumber field. So the original version, we have 3 degrees of freedom for each leg. And in this new version, we have 4 motors for each leg. So 4 degrees of freedom and 24 degrees of freedom in total. So one of the major topics we've been working on is this navigation. So how we enable a robot to be able to self-navigate in the field, avoid damaging crops, right, like leaves, avoid stepping on leaves, stems, and fruits. So the idea is we have developed a clearance adaptive clearance. So basically, when there's an obstacle, the robot can adapt its clearance by increasing its clearance instead of going around of the obstacle. And we also have a vision system on the robotic platform that identify the locations of those leaves, stems, and the fruits, and the robot will adjust its footprint in real time. Let's say whenever there's a fruit underneath, the robot will adjust its leg position and to avoid damaging stepping on those fruits and flowers. So this part showing the adaptive clearance. When there's an obstacle, the robot will increase its clearance to step over the obstacle. This is the foothold update I mentioned. With this foothold update, it will avoid stepping on leaves, stems, avoid damaging those objects. Well, I had planned for 45 minutes, but it seems I went a little bit too fast. But I do want to acknowledge my students and also funding agencies, including my current and previous universities. And the rest of the time, I'm open to any comments, questions, and discussions.
Thank you, Dr. Xiang, for a wonderful presentation. Uh, I guess we'll open the floor for questions from the audience. If anyone has questions, please.
Hi, hi Henry.
Hey, Usman.
Hi Lirong. A very nice presentation. So I'm actually postdoc at Blueberry Breeding Group at University of Florida. So we also have some kind of similar kind of work. You can say like we also using the same Amiga robot, but for the blueberry plants. So for like it's very nice presentation. I have a couple of questions. Like first one is like maybe about your tomato castle data set. So did you evaluate in the outdoor environment or just for some indoor or something controlled environment?
Yeah, that's a great point. So for we scan the 3D models of the tomato plants in controlled environment, and for those
Uh-huh.
disease patterns, disease images, they are captured outdoor, like in the field. So we can make it more photorealistic when we copy and paste those patterns into the simulation environment. And also in the simulation environment, we have added the different variations, like different lighting and different
Mm-hmm.
timings of the day to try to include those variations in the real world field conditions. So to also include those variations in our image data set so that to
Mm-hmm.
train the AI models, and the AI models will be robust to different variations from the real world.
Mm.
So yeah, I would
Okay.
for our work is they are collected from the real world, and also in simulation we try to include as many variations as possible.
Uh,
So I would suggest
Okay.
for your case, if you are working for, with field-based blueberry
Yeah.
crops, also
Uh-huh.
yeah, try to
Uh,
include those variations into your data set.
okay. Okay. And also, like you mentioned about the spraying the disease management, like a kind of a system like detection. So I saw the pictures are kind of maybe more like images processing, like you basically take a sample of images and then try to segment those areas, right? So I want to ask, like, how about you fix the like in a real world deployment, how you basically check the scaling problem. Some plants are small, some plants are large. So possibly, what I think, like maybe your robot can basically go near the camera for capturing the small one, and then for the larger ones. So how you basically tackle, say, hey, if this plant has this area like has affected. So yeah.
When you mention some of us small, are you talking about the plants or the field?
The plants,
The
the
plants.
small plants, like how you basically, because some small plants have small area. Yeah, like if we say a very, if we also, okay, let me say, if you have a distance, fixed distance from the plants, so those area gonna be smaller, and if the plant is bigger, so those
I
area,
see. Got
yeah,
you. Yeah, that's
yeah,
a good point. So that's why we have the stereo camera. So it doesn't really matter whether it is close to the canopy or
closer.
not. You know, the
Okay,
stereo camera based on the relationship between the left and right camera, just like our human eyes. If you just use one of your eyes, it can really hard to tell the distance
yes,
between the object and the camera. But if we have two cameras, based on a triangulation relationship, we can reconstruct that depth information. So we always have stereo cameras on our robotic system to capture both RGB images and the
okay,
depth images. It tells the distance between the
yeah,
object and the camera. So we know the real size, the real area of the disease affected part. And we've also worked with tomato crops from early stage to late growth stages. We've tried mounting different multiple tiers of the cameras to cover the whole canopy. In case that camera is not the camera field of view is not sufficient to cover the whole canopy, you can mount multiple cameras there.
okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
but
And
the
one last
depth even,
question, like maybe,
yeah, sure.
so so how about like you use the sprayer? So what kind of sprayer machine are you using to basically precisely spray certain weeds? Like I'm just asking it.
So for the tomato disease, we are more focusing more on the phenotyping side, identify the
Okay.
disease and quantify the disease severity. The spray part is probably our future projects.
Okay.
Basically, yeah, the main goal for this project is to generate that global map with disease type and disease severity information, and provide an automated tool for breeders and growers.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sure,
Right.
thank you for your
Mhm.
questions.
Mhm.
It looks like we have some more questions from the audience. So please go ahead. I don't know how to unmute people. So we have a question from Maria Ugarte Marin.
Yeah,
Maria, if
hi.
you'd like to go ahead.
Thank you. Sorry, I don't have a camera. I'm a PhD student at the University of Florida. I'm not very familiar with pl digital twins in plants, but I've heard about digital twins in milking parlors. I work with cows. So for the digital twin, you create the virtual model of the parlor, and then you have sensors. So then you actually only use data. So my question was, how do you work that with plants that you actually, your original digital model is going to vary as the plant grows? Like, are the images feeding this original model that you created, or you have to recreate a new model as the plant changes its shapes? Or can you like explain a little bit more about that?
Well, that's a great point. That's actually something we are working on now to make the plants grow in the simulation environment. But for our previous project, what we had done is try to scan plants at different growth stages. So try to incorporate the variations in plant architecture as well. So we scan young plants, also plants at a mature stage. So in the simulation, we duplicate those plants at different growth stages, try to include as many variations in plant architecture as possible in simulation environment as well. So also there are some sim to real technologies that can fill the gap you mentioned. How do we, fill the gap between simulation and the real world? But one thing we have been working on recently is how to make the plants grow in the simulation. So basically, we based on plant modeling, we try to generate plants at different growth stages and make a simulation environment can adapt to plants at different growth stages and different environments.
Thank you.
So I
Sure, thank
have
you for your question.
a
I
connected
saw
question to
one in the I saw one in the chat.
yes.
Your work on AI perception, and you think you could adapt your spider robot with longer legs and equipped with all necessary tools for automated runner cutting and harvesting if only ripe fruits in strawberry fields? Well, the short answer is yes, because we built the robot from scratch and we 3D printed everything. Currently, the robot is at chair size. That's mainly because the cross we have been working on previously need that size. But this is scalable. We can make a robot either larger, or way smaller to make it adapt to different scenarios. So it is quite straightforward for us to make it larger and with longer legs or even stronger motors that can carry more, or low or weaker motors that is lower cost. We can always customize it to adapt to different applications. So we haven't specifically working on this runner cutting in strawberry, but I can see that is a feasible scenario because one of the tasks we've been working on is the robotic weeding based on the spider robot. So basically, we mount the ultra precision nozzle on the one of the legs of the spider robot, and we call that leg manipulator. So that leg can serve as a leg and can also serve as a manipulator. So whenever it detects a weed, it can spray herbicides on that specific weed plant. And this is funded by FFAR, but it's the very first year we are still working on that project and hope to share more results later, maybe 1 or 2 years later. But that's absolutely possible, and we have been thinking about, for example, for the strawberry application, we can simply switch this end effector from the nozzle to this a cutter, maybe a customized cutter, and the robot can detect the runner and control that leg manipulator to approach the runner to cut it off. So I see that's something very feasible, and also welcome any collaborations on that side or any thoughts. Did I answer your question? I think yes, right?
I think that's a very good answer. Do we have additional questions from the audience? Well, I'm very much eager to ask you a lot of questions, but maybe I'll limit myself to a couple that are just related to what just the audience brought up. I found it, I guess, again, fascinating work overall. Since we're talking about the robotic navigation, I was just curious, which method you're using to segment the point clouds, and how much trouble you had to train it, or if you were able to use something just zero shot or yeah.
So when we train that Gaussian splatting model, we also feed it into the semantic labels. In our case, it's generated by YOLO, but there are many current existing algorithm AI models can be used for generating semantic labels. So when we train the semantic Gaussian splatting, the input will include both RGB depth as well as the semantic labels, and then the output will be point cloud with semantic labels can be used for navigation. And one of the key challenges is also the sim to real gap. we label the images from the simulation and train the models, and robot can work very well or generate accurate semantic point cloud in the simulation. But in the real world, because of the many variations from the environmental conditions, like wind, the different soil terrain, and more complicated plant canopies, variable lighting, etc. So the semantic segmentation algorithm won't work as well as it's in the simulation. So I think one step we could try is include those variations in the simulation to collect those semantic labels and also to train the Gaussian splatting. And the other one is we collect and label some real world images to train fine-tune the models.
That's fascinating. So, but just specifically the segmentation method, is it like based on the segment any Gaussians, or is it like your own techniques, or?
Yeah, it's segmenting 2D images.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay,
yeah,
so the
RGB
segmentation is
images.
happening. Okay, and then that's merged
Yeah,
at the model,
yeah, it's
the
merged
3D
during
reconstruct. Okay.
during the Gaussian splatting process, because Gaussian splatting, they are also rendered based on 2D images. Those 2D images are associated with semantic labels. That's why the generated point cloud they are with semantic labels.
And what we have thoughts on how to quantify this, the performance improvement as you reduce the sim to real gap. I know I said annotate a few images, but do you have any additional thoughts on how to make that easier for all of us?
Yeah, so the direct evaluation is we have manually annotated some images and compare the system generated semantic point cloud with the manual annotated ones. And the indirect way we evaluate that is we have a ground truth navigation line, and we compare the navigation line generated from that semantic Gaussian splatting with the ground truth, see how much they aligned. That is the indirect way, like how the system performed regarding the navigation side.
Well, thank you. This has been great. So if we, as we have additional questions from the audience at this point, I guess we'll finish our talk here. And it's been a great pleasure. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much for the invitation. And if any other questions, feel free to email me, and we'll keep in touch, and also for potential collaborations.
Absolutely.
Thank you
You.
so much. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye.